listening to The Breakfast Show on Faith FM with myself, Skafy. I have Lindsay and producer Sandy in the studio with me, and it is now the time for a quiz question. So please, producer Sandy.
As he was preaching to the Sanhedrin,
Yes.
where did Stephen see Jesus standing? As he was preaching to the Sanhedrin, Stephen looked up, and where did he see Jesus standing? 0491064669. Our listeners can send their answers in. You can refer to Acts 7:55. Skafy and Lindsay have correct answers. As he was preaching to the Sanhedrin, where did Stephen see Jesus standing?
Thank you so
Acts
much.
7:55, 0491064669.
Thank you very much for that. And we are now going to talk about a story here, Lindsay, about someone that had a lot of dump being trashed in their backyard. Now, has that happened to you? Have you ever had a neighbor chucking in, trash in your backyard, or have you ever done that with your neighbor?
I would like to think I haven't done that before, although I have seen it happen at the back of people's places before. I'm like, this is not a dump site. Like, this is right next to a creek. Why are people like taking their stuff just to a random patch of ground where like nobody's really looking? But yeah, no, it's not very nice to do that, is that? Like,
certainly not.
I've got bits of rubbish floating into my backyard or my front yard on the breeze, and I'm annoyed at my neighbours for leaving rubbish lying around, so it can be floating into my backyard on the breeze. But
Yeah,
I don't think anyone's like properly dumped heaps of stuff.
Not heaps of stuff. Like, it has happened to me. I've had neighbors, for example, or neighbors' dogs at least, using my front lawn as their toilet.
Yeah.
And I have, find rubbish being like random rubbish being thrown in my front yard. Not a lot. Sometimes what happens is, obviously, if you forget your rubbish bin, your outside.
Day. Yeah.
Yes, even for a rubbish day. Sometimes people will look at that and say, hey, you know what? There's just like a free bin here. Let me just, chuck in my fast food bag. And so sometimes I looked at my rubbish bin that was left outside in the street, and I was like, hey, there's definitely some trash that I have not generated here.
I had a really disgusting experience last year. There was a dead kangaroo, and somebody decided to put it inside of my rubbish bin. And
dead kangaroo.
And it just so happened that the street that I live in, for some reason, we only get the regular red rubbish garbage truck come every 2 weeks instead of every week. I don't think that's right.
So you basically had a defunct kangaroo on your bin for 2 weeks.
No, even longer, because the rubbish truck just literally just drove past my house on the second week, and so I had to wait over a month, and there was maggots, and it was stinking up the whole street, and all the neighbors were like, what is going on? It was terrible. It was,
wow.
I could smell it in my house constantly. Like, it was in my bedroom. The smell was just disgusting.
This sounds like a horror movie.
It was a horror movie.
All right, so tell me what that has to do with the story that you're sharing with us.
The story.
No, I think it has a lot to do.
Okay, so it's a very different story about rubbish that we're talking about here today. So there is a 80-year-old farmer who wants to remain anonymous, so we don't know his name.
Okay, let's call Mr. John Doe.
Sure, okay. In a place called Hertfordshire near St Albans in England. And he's got a patch of farmland by the side of the road. And it's turned out that somebody has decided to donate to his farmland over, it was over 40 dump truck loads of construction waste. 40? 40. 40. So I think it was, hold on, how much is it? It was like 200 tons of waste, like roofing material, plumbing fixtures, construction cast off. Yeah. They just dumped it on his land.
Wow.
That seems...
40 trucks. And
really bad.
And where was he when he didn't see that while that was happening?
Having a nana nap in his house, or like happened in the middle of the night, or who knows when or how
40
this happened.
truckloads.
And obviously, like, this dude is 80 years old. He is an old farmer. Farmers don't make a lot of money.
Look, to be honest, you would never expect anybody to do that on your property. So what happened to him?
Well, then he, is
the government helping him to clean it up at least?
Certainly not. The perpetrators could never be identified, so responsibility for disposal of the trash fell to the elderly farmer who wishes to remain anonymous. They wanted to charge him, I think it was 40,000 euros, which is about 52,000 US dollars. And they required him to remove it and also going to charge him 40,000 euros for having it on his land in the first place. And he's like, that wasn't my doing. So
someone just dumps 40 truckloads.
Yeah.
And the local council comes to you and says, look, we couldn't identify who did it, so it's your responsibility now. And by the way, we're charging you 40,000 euros, so that, or like $60,000 for us to fix it for you.
Yeah. So he was like, well, that's not happening. But he had a very kind neighbor, I guess also a farmer nearby, set up a fundraising campaign to help clear the mess. Now, this made the rounds in the media and social media and went viral pretty quickly. And within 3 days, they actually raised more than enough money for the fine and for the removal.
So he ended up paying the fine.
Well, not out of his own money. People who were just
hearing
still,
about this. The local council was not ashamed of charging that.
Yeah. So they got a fundraiser, Just Giving fundraiser, and it met its goal in just 3 days. And they raised over 58,000 euros in total, which is more than enough. So the leftovers are now being used to help pay for other fines for people who have experienced illegal dumping that they're required to fork out for.
Because I have a conspiracy theory.
You have a conspiracy theory? You think it's the council themselves? Or?
Yeah. I mean, what if the council themselves are organizing that so that they are charging people for rubbish that they have not created, and people are going online and like Good Samaritans all over the UK were contributing towards that. That would be a disaster. But look, isn't it so weird that the council would just say, too bad, give me the money?
I feel like it'd be very easy to narrow down who this might be. Like, it's 40 truckloads of construction waste. Surely they could get one detective on the case and be like, okay, how many construction companies are in like this half of the country that could even afford to have that much waste?
I know.
That have recently done some builds, and let's just go around checking whether they've got receipts from their dumping.
Look, when the police wants to discover something, they discover something.
They clearly just didn't bother.
They have like 200, like how many tons of rubbish?
200
tons of rubbish to look through, and sure they'll find something that will incriminate someone, and yet, no, they couldn't care less.
Oh, we couldn't find the perpetrators. It's your responsibility now. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
So does that mean that if he got if he got like that money, hired some dumpster trucks, and then in the middle of the night dumped all of the trash in the council's parking lot, is he going to say to the council, hey, sorry, do not know who caused this, it's your responsibility?
The Bible says,
get rid of it.
No eye for an eye.
No eye for an eye, trash for a trash.
Well, look, nobody knows if it's the council or who it came from. But
I know that Jesus told us to love our enemies, respect the authorities, but sometimes this is harder than other times.
Yeah.
This is one of the...
Look, I don't
definitely one of the harder times.
I don't necessarily believe in your conspiracy theory that it's a council, but I think the council could have done a lot better of a job of finding out who it was.
At least helping him to fix it.
No.
Look, I have a similar story that happened. I have a friend of mine. He used to be the director of an Adventist school in Egypt, in Cairo.
Okay.
So the Adventist church used to have a school there. And it turned out that the community hated that school.
Yeah.
Nothing that the school had done to them, but because they identified that, number one, as Christian, and in that neighborhood, they did not like Christians. Sure. Number two, because they thought that that school was American. And they did not like the Americans.
Sure.
They actually, that school became the dump for that region. Now, this is like in one of the most dirty and poorest suburbs in Cairo, so there's already rubbish everywhere.
Yeah.
But they made it their point to chuck all of their rubbish
over the
both
wall.
Over and also outside of the wall.
Wow.
And in that area, they did not have any government garbage collection services. if much, it would come once every 6 months.
Wow.
And it would bypass the
School.
church building,
Yeah.
the school building. So my friend decided to take that matter on his own hands, and he, decided to just go there every morning
Collect
and
the
clean it
rubbish.
for like 4 or 5 hours straight with
Every
his
day.
own bare hands. Every day. And it was very interesting that he said that sometimes he was cleaning, he just, finished cleaning after a full day
Yeah.
of work, like maybe 3 meters worth of area.
Yeah.
And then someone will come, said that there's this old lady with a plastic bag, and she'll look at the massive pile 3 meters high of rubbish. She would look at the patch of concrete that he just cleaned. He'll look at one, he'll look at the other, and she would, swing her plastic bag, and she would throw it right up where my friend had just cleaned.
Wow.
Well,
That's malice
It
right
is
there.
malice right there. But you know what? It turned out that he persevered with it. Eventually, the community got embarrassed that this foreigner was doing more for the community than themselves. So they, slowly stopped, throwing garbage there. He installed some garbage bins. He convinced the council to start collecting the bins regularly. So from 6 monthly become 3 monthly. From
For
3
just
monthly
them or for like,
everyone?
the whole street?
For everyone in the whole street.
Wow.
It ended up becoming like every other day the
Yeah.
garbage truck had to go.
Oh, he's
there.
like a local hero now.
He's a local hero now. People started to love him, and there's like this Muslim guy that was dressing with he was wearing like this fully white clothes,
Yeah.
a bit of a leader. He came to him and he says, "This is the first time that I have seen a Christian behaving just like Jesus in my life."
Yeah.
And so he did make a big of an impact. It came with a big cost for him because in that process, he ended up losing his vision because he got contaminated with toxoplasmosis. There's a lot of cat poo in that needle.
Yeah.
So he ended up paying a big price.
Right.
But as a result of that school flourished. And all of the Muslim families around says, look, if there's any one person we want to educate our children, it is you.
Wow.
So he could not have enough room for all the children that were flocking in
That's
because their parents
amazing.
went. So it was
That's
a bit
such
of
a
a
good story.
it was a bit of a gospel story. It's a story of sacrifice, but
Yeah.
yes, out of the
Look-
back of a ton of rubbish.
Yeah, like even though the people there hated Christianity and Americans and everything that they thought was associated with them, like I feel like God sometimes brings the community's problems to our doorsteps, and it feels really uncomfortable for a long time. But if we deal with it as Jesus would, then it is like a really good testimony for the gospel. Like it really allows everyone to be focusing on how are you displaying your character and getting to show the character of God and making an impact on the people around you. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that story, and it makes me think about Jesus. Jesus, we trashed his world with our sin, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to clean it for you, and I'm going to
pay.
purify you from your sins. I'm going to pay the price."
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
This is time for our next quiz answer. Please, producer Sandy, what is the answer?
As he was preaching to the Sanhedrin, Stephen saw Jesus standing at the right hand of God.
Yeah.
It was amazing. That's an amazing story. Imagine you're being stoned, but yet Stephen was praying, "God, please forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. Please do not impute that sin against them."
Yeah.
That's amazing. That story gets me every time. Thank you very much, Sandy, for that
You're
one.
welcome.
Now, Lindsay, you know that I like AI. I'm an enthusiast with AI.
Yep.
I think it's a great tool. It gives us a lot of technology and it gives us a lot of productivity in so many areas. However, I'm also want to recognize that there's a lot of problems. So grab a cup of, a cuppa for that story because, it will show how we are not able, we should not replace good old-fashioned police work for AI robots. So, Lindsay, imagine that you are a 50-year-old grandma.
I'm not a 50-year-old grandma already?
Just imagine.
Okay.
And definitely not.
Okay, good.
And definitely not 50-year-old. And
I'm closer to 50 than the two of you.
Yes. And
But not a
imagine,
grandma.
so imagine that this, Sandy. So you're a 50-year-old grandma in Tennessee, peacefully babysitting 4 little children at home, your grandkids, when suddenly armed U.S. Marshals burst through your door with guns drawn and they arrest you at gunpoint.
That's traumatizing.
So that nightmare happened to this lady called Angela Lips. She's a mother of 3, grandmother of 5, and she had never been to North Dakota, never even stepped on an airplane, and she's being arrested for a crime that has been perpetrated there. Now, so that you have an idea, North Dakota is about 2,000 kilometers from Tennessee. North Dakota is like at the very top of the United States.
Two-day
like
drive
border
away.
with Canada. That's right. So just for a reference, like Sydney to Brisbane, about 900 kilometers.
Yeah.
So it's like twice that distance.
It's like driving to Mackay from Sydney.
Exactly. So this is what happened here. Back in April last year, April and May, someone in a city called Fargo in North Dakota used a fake U.S. Army military ID, and she stole tens of thousands of dollars from banks. So she committed a bank fraud. Police had blurry surveillance video of that responsible woman, but instead of digging deeper, they decided to run the footage through a facial recognition software using AI. And the AI flagged that Angela Lips was responsible for that. They matched her facial features, her body type, her hairstyle, looked like her, must be her, right? So the detectives looked at her driver's license, their social media photos, and said, you know what? This is a match. This is it. We've got our suspect. No phone call, no alibi check. They're just the computer saying, yep, it's her. So in July 2025, these marshals, they showed up and they took her away. She was charged with 4 counts of identity theft and 4 counts of theft. She spent, listen to this, 108 days locked up in a Tennessee jail. So just next to her home without bail. Then she was extradited to North Dakota at the end of October. And while she was behind the bars, her whole life fell apart because she ended up losing her home, her job, her car. Even her dog was taken away from her because she couldn't pay the bills.
Wow.
Yes.
That's terrifying.
And all the while, Angela kept telling anyone who listened, I have never been to North Dakota. I don't know anyone from North Dakota. Thankfully, her lawyer, Jake Greenwood, believed her. He pulled her Tennessee bank records, and he proved that she was more than 1,700 kilometers away the entire time those crimes happened. So on Christmas Eve last year, after nearly 6 months in custody, the charges were dropped, and she finally walked free.
Wow. 6 months.
Yeah. The lawyer said, if the only thing you have is a facial recognition, I might want to dig this a little bit deeper. And here's the thing. No one from the Fargo Police Department has ever apologized to that grandmother.
Not. Because if they apologized, then they would admit guilt, and then it would be on them. And I was just wondering, like, has she been able to sue for this kind of behavior and get her house back and get her life back on track, or is her life destroyed now?
Yeah, so she's back. She lost everything. She hasn't been able to persecute the Fargo Police Department yet. I believe that, she is maybe looking into that. But one of the things, like, because she was released in Christmas Eve, like, her lawyer took pity of her and says, you know what, look, he organized for some accommodation for her for a Christmas Day meal. And then they organized, they got a little bit like, the people in the office just put in some money together. They did a little, fundraiser.
Sure.
And they helped her pay, like, for air tickets so she could go back to Tennessee to her family.
Okay, so is she now, like, sleeping on the couch at her kid's place, or what is going on now?
So the article doesn't say what is her current situation. I would say that she's probably living with one of her 3 children, because she ended up losing everything that she had. She lost her house, her car, even her dog went out to forced adoption because, look, she was not there to care for him. So imagine the turmoil that has been created. And this is not the first time that happened. There's some other cases of people that have been innocent people that have been wrongly jailed because of AI. There's a guy in Detroit arrested in 2020. There's a New Jersey case. There's a bunch of different cases. Just recently, there in October, last year, there is a school in Baltimore that were using AI cameras for surveillance. And the camera was seeing one of the high school students sitting down eating a bag of Doritos. And the AI saw the Doritos and thought it was a gun.
What?
So the AI system alerted the cops. The cops came in, like, swarms of police cars with armed men with machine guns. They're pointing the guns at the boy's face, and when the boy puts his hand up in his search, they realize that he had nothing other than his bag of chips that was mistaken by a gun.
And you wonder
by the
why
AI
I
system.
don't appreciate AI. Like,
Yeah, look, I think that we can appreciate things even though they're being misused. Like, I'm sure that you can appreciate cars, even though cars can also be misused to commit acts of terrorism. So I don't think the problem is with AI itself. The problem is with, number one, people fully trusting AI and not doing their part. So they're outsourcing their brains to the AI instead of doing their legitimate part. So I don't think it's an AI problem. I think it's a human problem using AI here in this case. Surely they could have, get Angela Lips as one of the suspects. Let's say that she looked almost identically. But before you arrest someone, don't you run some actual investigation?
sure, yeah.
Or let people, what about the whole assumption of innocence, where you consider someone to be innocent unless
Proven guilty.
you have proven guilty? And certainly a computer software saying, yeah, that person looks like that person is not
Not good enough.
good enough
Especially with
evidence.
blurry video. Goodness.
It was blurry already.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
Do
Well,
you know if they ever found the correct person? Or?
No, they haven't found the correct person. So the correct person is at large, unfortunately. Wow. But what do you think, folks? What do you think out there? Let us know here, radio friends. Should we have stricter rules before cops can use AI to arrest people?
Yeah.
Well, we haven't seen these cases in Australia, but we've certainly seen them in the United States. So drop us a message here. We'd love to hear
It just feels
what
so
you have to say.
dystopian.
Very dystopian. My thoughts immediately took me to the book of Revelation.
Sure, okay.
Look, one of the things that I've read recently that really disturbed me was that North Korea was pioneering the world of using AI to figure out who is Christian in their country so that they could use that information to send people to concentration camps.
And were they not just, looking to listen in on their conversations and them saying direct things that are Christian, but even like secretive codic kind of things that's
Yes,
Christian?
that's right. So the AI is able to identify patterns that we cannot identify.
Yeah.
And if before, like, governments used to know like maybe 100, 150 things about you, Lindsay, now with AI supervising,
Thousands,
they can know
millions.
thousands of things. And now you don't even need to show up in their radar because the AI will find you proactively.
Yeah.
Because before, people, if, for you to be persecuted, someone needs to complain.
Yeah.
Now nobody needs to complain about anything. The
They've
AI will
bugged
dub
every
you,
house.
even if you are innocent. But what I was thinking here is that the Bible tells about a period in the future, and I find it fascinating that this has written over 2,000 years ago, that there's going to be a global, worldwide persecution against people who dare to keep the Ten Commandments, the commandments of God, the faith of Jesus, and these people would one day not be able to buy or sell. And so people were wondering throughout these centuries, the ages, how can that ever happen worldwide, not buying or sell? Well, there you go. Now we have all the technology necessary to make this an absolute breeze to any person aspiring to persecute Christians, particularly those who are keeping the commandments of God and they are for some reason going against the general big population. I don't think it's going to be a mass persecution against Christians in general. I think it's a particular subgroup of Christians that dare to just keep the Ten Commandments, particularly the seventh day, the Sabbath. I think it's the only one of the Ten Commandments that is contentious, so to speak.
Sure,
that can cause some economic turmoil in the eyes of some governing people. So we see this dystopian future happening, predicted in the Bible 2,000 years ago. And I think that the technology to make that happen, it's all there. The good news is that we don't need to worry, because you know what? At the end of every single prophecy where peoples were persecuting the people of God, you know what happened? God triumphs at the end. So we know that story is not going to mean the triumph of Satan, the triumph of iniquity, the triumph of injustice in this world, but the triumph of justice. And in the same way that Angela Lips was vindicated for the whole world to see, and I'm pretty sure that she will have some reparations. I really believe that.
I hope so.
For the people of God, we're going to have eternal vindication.
You're listening to the Breakfast Show podcast on Faith FM. Positively different.
And now it's time for our interview, the best part of our segment today, in my opinion.
With Justin Lawman. Justin, good morning to you, my friend. Welcome to The Breakfast Show.
Ooh, wait a second. We are just trying to get Justin online here.
Can you
Okay,
hear me?
there
we
go.
can hear you now. Justin, good
Oh,
morning
well.
to you, my friend. How are you?
I'm going great, as long as technology's with us.
Yeah.
That's right. Hey, Justin, tell us a little bit about what has happened in the past week, as I think a fair bit happened. I don't know. Have you tried to fuel
Boy.
up your tank in the meantime?
I sure have, because I live in Canberra and a place called Batlow, just outside of Batlow, and we've famously been all over the news because we've had no fuel at all.
Oh, no
The whole
fuel at
time.
all.
No.
Wow, I cannot believe it. Look, I was just driving yesterday here in Newcastle area. And, one day I saw that the diesel prices had jumped like 30, 40 cents per liter. And then the next day, another 30, 40 cents. Then the next day, another 30, 40 cents.
Oh, my.
So now the diesel is bordering $3. And before that, all of that was like $1.60, $1.70. So we are almost getting to double prices if you can find them.
Well, unfortunately, I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. All our fuel in Australia comes through Singapore and South Korea. They get the crude oil from the Straits of Hormuz. So there was still crude oil on the ocean when this war broke out 16 days ago, but there is definitely not much on the ocean now. So I'm sure they're scrambling to get more oil from some other place, but I'm not sure this is going to go away when it comes to fuel and the prices, and possibly even more shortage.
Wow, that is intense. So what are you making? Like, what can happen if that scenario comes to place? What do you think can we expect to see happening around?
Inflation is, of course, the thing that the Reserve Bank here just puts up interest rates as soon as they smell a bit of inflation. Well, this is going to be, if the cost of energy goes up, the cost of everything goes up as far as consumption, goods, the supply chains of this world. It amazes me how fragile that we only have 30 days of fuel, because if we just pray tell we can't get any fuel for trucking, it's not like, oh, shucks, it's going to be dearer. Coles and Woolworths don't operate. So, this is actually could become much, much worse than it currently is. We pray it doesn't, but it's a crazy place we find ourselves in as a country. So rich in resources that a war in the Middle East could impact us in such a devastating way. Possibly. It hasn't yet. It's scaring us, but it's got the potential to, and it's crazy that we find ourselves here.
And look, Australia used to be self-sufficient in the fuel we used to produce, wasn't it, in the past? So we made that decision to say, hey, what can possibly go wrong? Let's just outsource our fuel stocks for overseas. Isn't that what happened?
Well, it's that. It was cheaper, but more than that, in a world where climate change is the major moral crisis of our age, as a former prime minister said, you don't invest in coal and you don't invest in oil and the development or the processing of oil. We have more oil than we could ever use as a country, but we somehow convince ourselves that if someone else uses the coal or we get the oil from somewhere else, it's good for the environment. So
Wow.
I'm not sure about that logic, but this is not a topic to get me started on. It's
Absolutely.
Monday morning.
Absolutely.
Monday morning.
Absolutely, Justin. So tell us a little bit more about what's been going on the Strait of Hormuz in the war, because Donald Trump said that he was going to offer for insurance, like competitive rates to transporters, that he would even use warships to escort tankers if needed. Where's that all going?
Well, he also put a call out for other nations to send warships to the Straits of Hormuz. Here's the thing. The Chinese have developed a missile that they call the aircraft carrier destroyer. If you bring in your ships into that strait, you are definitely putting your ship in jeopardy. And I think, the missiles are still flying. There's more damage being done by drones than anything else. And they're using the defense capabilities of these warships to take down missiles to defend cities. But this is a precarious situation. One of the big issues in the Middle East is water. And these countries are using desalination plants to give there's 100 million people need water that only get it from salt water being desalinated in these plants. And the Iranians have shown they have hit one of these plants. If they were to successfully destroy a number of these desalination plants, human beings can't go long without water. And the whole Middle East and its wealth comes under real jeopardy. So this is far from over. We wish it would all settle down and it's all going to be done in a couple of weeks. But Iran is proving to be very resilient, and they're not coming to the table to talk to Donald about anything.
And the thing is that they are really putting the whole world hostage, because they effectively, with their militia tactics, they managed to close one of the most important commercial waterways in the planet. And it tells us how interconnected the world economy is in this current model.
And if they can get the price of oil to $200 a barrel, which they would love to do, that would probably mean that Donald Trump would lose the House and the Senate in the midterms.
Wow.
The impact that it would have on Western economies. So they don't have many chips to play with, but that's a big one that they do have. And it continues, and they are constantly attacking their neighbors. The UAE is a big ally of the United States. It's just daily that they are continuing to launch drones and missiles into those countries.
I've seen a breaking news yesterday that Hamas send a message to Iran saying, hey, please stop attacking your allies and the other Arab countries here. Have you seen that news floating around?
Yeah, I don't know how true any of this stuff. The first casualty in war is the truth.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
It's really the whole of the Middle East is united with Israel at the moment against Iran, which is incredible to say that out loud, because that's not where we've lived for a long time.
Absolutely.
And they're not making any friends at the moment.
And speaking of which, there's some conspiracies that Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of Ali Khamenei, the current supreme leader of Iran, at least he has elected as being supreme leader. There's some conspiracy theories out there that people are questioning, hey, is this guy even alive, or is this some kind of fake news? What do you think about that, Justin?
I follow a guy that is Iranian. He has family in Iran. And he said now for a week that he's in a coma and that he has one leg is either permanently damaged or even amputated from an attack, a strike that he's been involved in. So if that's true, I don't really know. No one has seen him since he's been elected. There's only been a written statement, which doesn't give you a lot of confidence. And by the way, while we're on that, there's a lot of talk and conspiracy surrounding the Israeli Prime Minister.
Yeah, so what's the goal with that?
Well, what's done it, his home was struck by a missile. He came out and made a speech on television, but unfortunately on one part of the clip he has 6 fingers, which, unless you're related to Goliath in Scripture.
Wow. Okay. So what are people saying in the web sphere?
That was a deep fake that they've used I'm no technical guy, but apparently AI seems to struggle with hands when it's making. The number of fingers is one of the tells. And unfortunately, you can watch that online. He has 6 fingers at one point in the video. So they're saying, well, he didn't actually record that at all. That is a deep fake produced by AI. Where's Benjamin? And then they've put out a video today, him in a coffee shop saying he's dead for coffee. Again, what do we believe in this modern world?
Yes.
When we see a video now, can you trust any videos? The stuff you see online of people wrestling with lions, and it looks so real, but it's not.
Looks very real.
So,
Actually, Justin, I saw some accounts online, and I hope that, look, nobody does this, okay? But I definitely do not endorse what I am going to say now. But they're saying here that people are, when they're committing crimes and robbery, let's say bank robbery, they're adding like a 6th fake finger to their hand, so that when these videos come to court, they can say, this is AI, because look at my hands, there's 6 fingers. I don't recommend anybody trying this. Just saying that's what's out there. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. So that is okay. So Prime Minister, what about Cuba? Because in the middle of all of that, it looks like Cuba is having some really historical manifestations and protests at the moment, aren't they?
It's their utter poverty. Now that Venezuela has been taken by the Trump administration, Cuba has a fuel crisis of mammoth proportions. They have a food crisis. Mexico's not sending stuff as they were. America wants Cuba like they want Venezuela. They're taking out the cartels in Mexico. They're threatening Canada and Greenland, and they're taking Iran. And I've got to say, guys, in the background is China. China gets a lot of its energy from Venezuela, where that's been taken off, and Iran. And I think Trump has gone into Iran because he keeps giving inconsistent reasons. That tells you there's another bigger reason they don't want to state. I think this is about Taiwan and the South China Sea and the future of why they're in Iran at the moment.
But people are saying that the United States has displayed such an array of very sophisticated weapons that the Chinese had no idea, or nobody actually, had no idea that the U.S. had, that this is acting as a deterrent to China for their pretensions with the South China Sea and particularly with Taiwan. What do you make of that? Do you think that do you think that this is an accurate interpretation of what has happened, or do you think that the United States is coming out as more fragilized than before?
I think they're isolating China. And energy, no economy can survive if it doesn't have energy. And that's why we're in a panic about diesel. Because all our farming, all our mining, all our transport, we would starve without diesel in this country. And if America can isolate China's need because it cannot produce enough of its own oil, it has to import oil. Russia's the other side, and Trump has removed tariffs on Russia to try and keep the price of oil down. They want to control oil and the supply of oil. So I think that's what it's about, but that's just my opinion. We'll see what happens moving forward, but the 2027 is a big year for Taiwan and China. And China's made it very clear that they're intending to reclaim Taiwan as their own.
Absolutely. And Justin, what about Ukraine? Because Ukraine has been a little bit like the focus of the international media, it's not really going to Ukraine. But Donald Trump said that, or at least not Donald Trump, but Zelensky said that the U.S. government has sought their help to train and teach some of their soldiers in the Middle East how to defend themselves against drone strikes and anti-drone warfare. Because of their experience with that. And there are also some news coming from the battlefront. What's going on in Ukraine?
Look, from what I've been watching and listening to, the the amount of drone attacks that Ukraine are performing into Russia now is getting to levels we haven't seen. And it appears that they have merged artificial intelligence into the operation of these drones, probably with a lot of American help. And so they have taken drone warfare now to a whole nother level. They're killing the Russian drones with their own drones, but when they don't need operators, when they're able to use artificial intelligence, drone warfare has become the next big thing, or the actual big thing now in military conflict. And the merging of artificial intelligence with that makes it a very dangerous thing. And right now, Ukraine is making great gains against Russia, which we haven't been able to say for a while because of the way they're using their drones and the number of drones that they're using.
Wow. So have you heard anything about Ukraine reclaiming some territory as well in Russia?
Yes, and the intent seems to be that they are going to attack more and more. They overnight they had some of these long-range missiles made by the British and the French. What are they? Storm something?
Storm Shadows.
Storm Shadows have gone deep into destroying a missile factory in Russia. Look, we are living right now, and I'm sorry I'm being a bit dramatic today. We're living in 1941, where England is fighting with the Germans and they've invaded Poland and the war has broken out there. We have a war in Europe right now with Ukraine and Russia that America is very involved with. We also have this Middle Eastern war now that's drawn all sorts of countries in. If China were to take Taiwan in the next year or so, I think we find ourselves in a world war, because the Second World War started the same way. It wasn't all at the same time. Pearl Harbor happens after Britain and Germany are already at war. And so this is a dangerous time. It's a time we need to be praying. And modern warfare is really getting very sophisticated.
Absolutely. So, Justin, what can we do? What do you suggest we, to our listeners, to do? How can we prepare ourselves for, the unimaginable in the future, spiritually speaking?
Just understand the time in which we live. I don't think we should be naive and just think the government's going to rescue us and they're going to have everything okay. We need to rely on God, and we need to have faith in God today. And having that as the highest priority in your life, that you're reading your Bible, you're praying, and you understand, we're at the business end of history. The gospel is going to go forward to all the world. Be a part of sharing the gospel today. That's the best thing you could ever do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Justin. And by the way, I did develop a little Bible study guide and asking the question, is this current Iran-Israel conflict being prophesied in the Bible? So it's a Bible study on the prophecies of Ezekiel chapter 38, 39, and bring some passages of the New Testament as well. If you're interested in exploring more of that topic, text me here, #Iran, to 0491 064 669. Again, #Iran to 0491 064 669. And I'll send those notes for you to study the Bible and to seek God and to try to make sense of everything that's happening now, and most importantly, how to respond when these things happen. Thank you so much, Justin.
Thanks for being a part of the Faith FM family. Join our community on Facebook or get in touch at 1-800-FAITH-FM.